Welcome to our inaugural edition, I should say, of Twin Cities Superstore Monday Night Memories. This is going to be big, I promise you guys. It's going to be huge. But two of my favorite people in the world that I get to spend time with. I don't know if this show isn't worth a hoot. You know, it's okay. We got 20 minutes with Nate and Tom, and then, of course, it's Nate Barrett. Yes, he is with TwinCitiesSuperstore.com, but obviously has been a Purdue watcher and fan and media person dating back, not centuries, but at least decades. And of course, Tom Dienhart may be closer to centuries. That's where I look at myself. It's been centuries since we go back. But this new Monday night deal is going to be a once a month deal on our site, and we're just going to take a trip down memory lane. Try not to go too deep into rabbit holes, but have some fun about reliving some of our favorite memories. It'll be basketball today. We'll do a little football as well, but this show will be once a month throughout the course of the year, with the exception, we think, of football season. We'll probably do it twice a month and have some fun with that as well. So guys, yesterday, if you're a Purdue basketball fan and observer, as I'm assuming just about everybody that's watching this was a memorable game. Purdue made it a little bit too memorable in some ways by blowing a 20-point lead, but Jaden Ivey's game winner, buzzer beater, literally, to beat Ohio State and deliver the number 6 ranked Boilermakers was one to remember, certainly. And Nate, I'm going to start with you. We've seen some great ones. Jaden Ivey's really been one of those great ones, but great finishes in Mackey Arena as you look at over the years. There haven't been that many buzzer beaters, but you talk about whether it be a buzzer beater or great finishes or great on-court celebrations. What comes to your mind?
I was awfully nervous about doing this show, Alan, with heavyweights like you and Tom that know all the history. But I tried to start by thinking, when you brought up the topic, I thought, what one is the first major impression on me? And I started going to games in '88. Yeah. So great first season watching Lewis, Mitchell, and Stevens and that group. But one of the early ones that stands out for me, guys, would be the Woody Austin led beating of IU in '92. Yeah. When Purdue had gone down to Assembly Hall and just gotten blown off the board. And then they come in. IU was playing for a Big Ten title, playing for a number 1 seed. And Woody gets it going in the second half. Coach Katie tells him to just keep shooting, and he did. And Purdue gets out of there with a victory so monstrous at that time that it caused Bob and Tom to write a song about it, and Bob had to cancel the postseason banquet. And I think when you thought about how Purdue left Assembly Hall in Bloomington earlier that year, that kind of a win for Purdue in that moment for not a great Purdue team was kind of unthinkable. And at 11 years old, sitting there watching that one and watching Purdue pull that out, it's hard to forget that day.
Yeah, I remember that one only because I was in Columbus, Ohio, and the sound of Woody Austin, he just got on fire in the second half. And this was not a good Purdue team. I mean, a team that was just over 500. Indiana ended up going to the Final Four that year, but it cost them a number 1 seed. And Woody Austin, and they rushed the court after that one. That was one as well. I just remember that one that you picked a great finish, and it was, I know Purdue won by 2, and I think he hit a game winner in the last seconds. But unbelievable second half, and I think that that definitely qualifies. Tom, what say you in terms of that? You've been watching a long time. What were ones that come off the top of your head?
Yeah, Nate had a good one there, fellas. I do remember that one. Craig Riley. I always remember Craig Riley.
Played great that game.
He did. Alan is one we've talked about before. I'm sure some of the older fans remember the Arnett Hallman shot to beat Michigan State. It was, I believe, Alan, the 1978-79 season in Mackey Arena.
January 13th, but who's counting? So
yeah, I was in, I think, Alan, and I know I was in 8th grade, and my parents always had season tickets, and there was a coal strike going on, and they would play some games like on Thursday afternoon at 4:00.
Yeah, that was the year before. That was the year before.
Okay, I digress. But anyway, of course, real basketball cognoscent, they know how special the 1978-79 Michigan State team was, right? That, of course, is the Magic Johnson team that went on to what an unbeaten season and won the national title, where they beat, of course, Larry Bird in Salt Lake City for the championship. And the mighty Boilermakers took down Magic that year. And again, Arnett Hallman, of all people, right? Anybody who's familiar with his skill set, never associated with being a marksman, that's for sure. But Arnett Hallman hit a shot to knock off Michigan State down. Correct me, I think it was a pretty low scoring game.
Yeah, 52-50. Yeah.
And again, that was and I think too, that same year, I think Larry Bird came to Mackey Arena, didn't he?
Yep, he did.
I remember
of course
Larry Bird. Think about that. Think about that. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, two iconic figures in Mackey Arena in the same year. Of course, Larry Bird left Mackey with a win, if I remember too.
That year, that's right. And I was a freshman basketball manager, and you're right. Larry Bird beat Purdue, did not have one of his better games, but Arnett Hallman only basket of the game. And again, I think the thing that was so memorable about that is he hits the shot way on the left wing. It would have been a deep 3-pointer. There were no 3-pointers in the time, and he literally stops and he like poses. Before posing was popular, and right over the outstretched arms of Terry Donnelly. But the thing I remember most about that, Purdue's head basketball coach, this predates Gene Cady by 2 years, Lee Rose. Yeah. And I remember going into the locker room, and Lee had a sense of the dramatic, I guess, and Purdue came out and did a victory lap, and the place went nuts. And they did it again, I think, later in his time. But Judd Heathcote wasn't too happy about that after the fact. And for whatever reason, Judd was a pretty jovial guy, of course, Michigan State's head coach. But what an amazing game. I think Jaden Ivey is yesterday's was in the top 2 or 3 of last second shots. Yeah. But I think it's hard to beat Arnett Hallman, because remember, Michigan State also ranked number 1 at the time. And of course, the Spartans went on to win the national championship. Nate, I remember what game that I remember, and you remember as well. And again, not a game-winning shot, but fans rushing the court, and a consequential victory for Purdue. Rob Hummel in the Baby Boilers, Rob's and Juwan Johnson, Etwan Moore, Scott Martin's freshman year, he blocks a game-winning shot against a game shot attempt by Wisconsin. Hummel and Purdue wins that game. But talk about, again, the magic of that. But other games that, we also mentioned Juwan Johnson doing it in 2011 against Penn State. Terrence Crump against Virginia hit a game winner in Matt Painter's second season as head coach at Purdue. But those magic moments when you have fans rush the court and get all and you have that last second bang bang play are hard to find.
Yeah, that whole era with the Baby Boilers, and I have Kramer down for a couple of notes as well. But Robbie and those guys, Robbie starting out his career playing with a pretty bad back. Yeah. You remember, he was dealing with that. Remember, he had the brace working and just was in a good deal of pain, and was playing through that. And I think you knew in games like that Purdue had something special with this group, and that they weren't going to wait. They were going to get after it right away. And you could see something special evolving with those guys. And that one was, court rushing, there's been a lot of it. I think we're exposed to more of it now because we see so many games on TV. Yeah. But you think about it, coming through that era, there weren't that many times that would happen. And I think it signaled, as Matt was getting things going, a brand new era of Purdue basketball.
Yeah, no doubt. And that group changed the whole face of Purdue basketball. I do remember that the Terrence Crump and that was Matt's first really win. Virginia was a Big Ten ACC challenge, and he hits a runner in the lane with a second to go. And Juwan Johnson, technically, and we had some discussion with Chris Foreman, Purdue's basketball media relations guru, and he's right. I don't know that Juwan Johnson's game winner against Penn State, there was 3 seconds left. And technically a buzzer beater is when the other team doesn't get an official shot on the back end, which Ohio State didn't get yesterday. They got a heave at the basket, but that was it. Juwan hit that game winner against Penn State with 3 seconds to go. But, Tom, we had talked offline about a couple of the more famous buzzer beaters in Purdue history. And Glenn Robinson, the big boys tend to make the big plays. Glenn Robinson in Purdue's first of its three-peat championship season, 1994. Glenn Robinson had two of them. Take us through those, because those were memorable. And again, Jaden Ivey, Glenn Robinson getting talked about a lot right now as two of the most talented players at Purdue in the last 30 years. But Glenn had a couple big ones as well.
Yeah, man, for my money, Alan, I was too young to be aware of Rick Mount, but I've seen none like Glenn Robinson before or since in my memory bank at Purdue. And just unbelievable how you could take over a ball game. And like you said, big players make big plays at big moments. And you'd probably be hard pressed to find any Boilermaker who made more big shots than Glenn Robinson. The quintessential one-man gang on many nights was not surrounded by a lot of talent. Yet that year, that 93-94 season, I think they lost 4 games, won the Big Ten outright, were a number 1 seed, got to the Elite Eight. He was the consensus National Player of the Year, led the country in scoring with over 30 points a game. And to your point with big shots, Alan, that game in Ann Arbor in 94 was one of the most epic comebacks I've ever witnessed. Watching that on TV, I fell out of my lazy boy. It was unbelievable. Anybody's probably on YouTube. If you ever get a chance,
it is on YouTube. It's great. It's great.
Watch the last 90 seconds. And remember, Purdue ends up somehow winning the game, and they do. And Big Dog, of course, hits a shot at the very end to ice that win. Gene Cady, they show him running off the court, pumping his fist. It was that was, of course, against the Fab Five, right? I think
four of the Fab Five.
Minus Chris Webber, but still right. You had Howard there and Jalen and Jalen Rose and the other two guys as well. So that was a big one in the game in Evanston against a bad Northwestern team, a moribund Northwestern team. And Purdue should have taken care of business. They struggled. And at the end, Glenn Robinson had to bail them out with a late shot in the final seconds to get out of Evanston with the win that year. But he found a way. He wasn't going to let his team lose on the road. And that was another big shot he made, guys. And he didn't make a big shot, but I'll throw one more Big Dog moment in Mackey Arena for me that resonates that same season. I think it was the last game of the year against Illinois. Glenn Robinson scores 49 points, could have had 50.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think a Big Ten player scored 49 points since. Nope. That gives you an idea how special a game that was. And again, it's not like Glenn Robinson was scoring points on a bad team. A lot of times the country's leading scorer plays on a bad team. He takes a bunch of shots. Big Dog led the country in scoring on a number 1 seeded team in the country that won the Big Ten. And that game was a great way to go out in Mackey Arena to score 49 points against Illinois and hit shot after shot that day. That was a special moment I'll never forget.
Michigan's Juwan Howard, now the head basketball coach for the Wolverines. I don't know how much of contact he has with the Big Dog, but if you go back and watch it, Glenn Robinson traveled to beat the band. I mean, he takes about 4 steps. But as we all know, being Purdue observers and fans, Boilermakers rarely get things handed to them. But he makes the play in that lane. It's just unbelievable. And you're right. You go back on YouTube and watch that. I think Purdue was down almost like Ohio State was down yesterday.
Yeah, about
maybe worse. It was like 7 and Jalen Rose throws a ball out of bounds that you just like, what is going on? So this is your homework. If you're listening and or watching this, go back, find that on YouTube, March of 1994. I think it is early March of 94, Purdue, Michigan. It's on there, but it's pretty incredible. It's fun to watch Matt Waddell and Konzo Martin and Ian Stanback and some of those other guys do what they did, but a great win from that standpoint. One other one I was going to say, and this goes way deeper. Tom Dienhart might have been 2 years old at this point, and Nate wasn't even a twinkle in anybody's eye. But the first game in the history of Mackey Arena actually was a buzzer beater in the wrong direction, and that was UCLA's Bill Sweek hit one basically, to put it into perspective, about the same distance as Ron Harper Jr.'s shot by Rutgers against Purdue earlier this year, or earlier this season, I should say. Hits one and delivers the most unbeatable team there was in college basketball, UCLA, and off of a super long winning streak. John Wooden comes back, dedicates Mackey Arena. Purdue has a chance. Rick Mount misses a free throw, misses a shot from the corner, though he did score 28 points in his first game. And Bill Sweek gets a outlet pass from Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and nails one from half court. That opened Mackey Arena. So on the negative side, that was it. But, I don't know, guys, yesterday, Nate, did you know, and I don't know, in your perspective, you were on that side of the court. Did you think that was in all along? I was on the other side, and it looked, I said, he's going to make that thing's good. I don't know why it just looked that way. Maybe it's just selective memory, but did you see that one in all the way, or are you covering your eyes?
No, it looked pretty good. I watched it the whole way. And of course, my immediate reaction was to look at how much time's left.
Yeah.
They didn't have much to get anything of a decent shot up, but I remember as soon as he made it, just looking at that clock over the basket to see how much time was remaining. But you guys touched on the big dog, and I was just thinking, Alan, and putting a few notes down for this, that even though it was neat that Jaden mentioned that he didn't run the right play, and Brian gave him a lot of credit for that in his rap. I think there is something that all Purdue fans need to think about for a minute. And Brian pointed out a few rap videos ago, we have a very Final Four hungry fan base.
Yeah.
We need to pause and just enjoy what we have here, because, Alan saw Mount play. We all saw the big dog, and we're seeing Jaden, and just enjoy the fact that, guys like Jaden don't come along very often. And, we need to enjoy it for what it is, because just what we saw yesterday and last year at Ohio State, and a guy that wants the ball in those situations is very special.
Yeah, it is. And you're right. I think it is the truest thing. It's almost to the point of Final Four obsession. I get it. It's been 42 years, or will be 42 years by the time, even if Purdue gets to the Final Four this year, since the Boilermakers went to it with Joe Barry Carroll and Arnett Hallman and Brian Walker and others. And you go like the last on this topic, I think the most famous buzzer beater, arguably, though you can put some of the ones we talked about, but on the road or in the NCAA tournament, of course, Rick Mount delivers Purdue to the Final Four with his game winner after a bad shooting day against the Marquette Warriors, and Al McGuire from the corner. The shot heard around the world for Purdue fans on March the 15th, 1969, up at the Wisconsin Fieldhouse. He hits the game winner and sends Purdue to the Final Four. That might qualify, but Jaden Ivey, that was pretty good yesterday, to say the least. So, all right, next topic on our memory lane, because it's topical today, Purdue in the Super Bowl. And Purdue had a long streak that I think was snapped a couple of years back of having a player on the roster. The Bengals pulled one out. Joe Burrow was phenomenal yesterday. I really couldn't believe what I was watching. I just thought, Patrick Mahomes was going to deliver Kansas City and get the job done. He didn't. And Joe Burrow and Cincinnati goes to the Super Bowl. But Purdue will have two players, Ricardo Allen and Markus Bailey, on the roster. Lou Anarumo, who was a defensive backs coach at Purdue and now the D coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. But, I'll start with you, Nate. You go back to Mike Allstott, and of course you go back again before your time, but Bob Greasy and Len Dawson and all that. But that Super Bowl streak has been a big thing for Purdue over the years, and some great Purdue players have played at Roosevelt, Colvin on down the line. It's been pretty special for Purdue.
Yeah, Matt Light got to be a part of some great New England teams. Who was it? Was it Jim Schwantz with the Cowboys?
Yeah.
90s. I was on some. I was thinking about Alan. One of the great local nights here in recent memory was 2010, the Joe Tiller National Football Foundation chapter, when Len Dawson, Bob Greasy, and Drew Brees were together in one ballroom, and to be able to talk about those Super Bowl memories and what those three quarterbacks have meant to Purdue. And I think for all Purdue fans, even those that root for the Colts normally, that was an awfully special night to see Drew with his son in his arms raise that Lombardi trophy. And I think every Purdue fan that, rode all the way through from Drew's first appearance in a Boilermaker uniform had a tear in their eye that night. It was awfully special, really a made for television moment.
Yeah, no question. And that streak has been amazing. Tom, what's your memories of that? And as you look at the guys Mike Allstott, I think, was the first Purdue Boilermaker to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. He did for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know. I didn't do my research or my homework. I can't remember exactly which Super Bowl was. It's funny. I think it's a Super Bowl 56, and I've seen them all. That's hard to believe. but Tom, tell me, in terms of Super Bowl memories and Purdue, there've been a lot of guys that have been role players. I get that, but that streak has meant a lot to a program that's had some ups and downs over the years. It's been something that Purdue's been pretty proud of.
Yeah, you're right. I wonder how many other schools have had 3 quarterbacks win Super Bowls.
Only Alabama, right? I think is the only other one.
Yeah, and Bart Starr, Joe Namath, and
Stabler.
Yes, yeah, Stabler. I'm sure one of these contemporary guys, they're producing quarterbacks every year down there. He's going to get one at some point here, Mac Jones or somebody too.
Yeah, true.
But I digress. I think Allstott may be the only Boilermaker to score a touchdown.
Did Mostert score? I think he might have. I might have, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, that they were. I remember the Raiders played the Buccaneers that year, and that was John Gruden was still coaching the Bucs back then. But you know what, guys, I always want to talk about Hank Stram too.
Yeah.
I know that was ancient history in the eyes of a lot of people, but that was the infancy of the Super Bowl. Of course, Hank Stram, the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, and led the Chiefs to the Super Bowl championship and Super Bowl IV over the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, Hank Stram coached in Super Bowl I against Vince Lombardi. Of course, Alan knows a lot about Hank Stram. Hank Stram played football at Purdue. He's from Gary, Indiana. Was a great athlete, and I'm enamored with Hank Stram. I just fell in love with him as a kid. Then you watch the YouTube videos of his sideline histrionics. Quite a character and a great football coach, a Hall of Fame football coach. And him and Len Dawson, 2 Purdue guys. Think about that. 2 Purdue guys were at the apex of the early Super Bowls and both in the Hall of Fame. And Len, Hank Stram, what he meant. And I always still want to figure out where he lived when he was at Purdue, because he coached baseball, right, Alan?
Yeah. I think he was a fraternity guy. I think he was in the ATO house.
I think he was a Sigma Chi. I think he was a Sigma Chi.
No. He was I think he was a Sigma Chi. Yeah.
But this too, Alan can maybe talk about this. I always heard that when that job came open, whoever coached before Mollenkoff, it was between Mollenkoff and Hank Stram getting that job. And they gave it to Mollenkoff. Not a bad choice, right?
Yeah.
Hank Stram leaves, right?
Right.
Hank Stram goes on to Hall of Fame pro football career. So just an incredible character, one of the best ever to come out of Purdue.
It's fun. I was going to say YouTube also is your friend on that, because I think you can get Hank Stram's matriculating down the field.
Yeah.
That was his great line. And of course, I don't know what, I don't think it was a Brooks Brothers suit, but it was something. He was always, they always say, sartorially resplendent, unbelievable on the sidelines. I loved his debate with the little rolled up program. And he was a great offensive mind that got his chance in that AFL to make a big mark and a Hall of Fame level career. And I know that Nate, you got a chance to meet Len Dawson, and I don't know that you ever met, because Hank Stram was part of the early, I think the second or third class of Purdue's Hall of Fame. I remember meeting him, and I'd met Hank one time before. Him and Chris Schenkel went into the Purdue Hall of Fame in the same year. They were, and of course, Hank was a great broadcaster too, guys. Remember on radio, Monday Night Football, and did CBS TV television football as well. But any memories from those guys or recollections of what they mean even to you in your age bracket, Nate?
Well, on Stram, I stood by him once. Tom, you and Alan will remember when Damon's was on State Road 26.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Lafayette. Coach Stram was in the lobby, and I was just a kid. I didn't go up and say anything, but I knew it was him. And I was having dinner there with my grandparents, and I saw him standing there on a football weekend. He must have been in town for something, and I remember that. But my only good Hank Stram story actually was from my grandfather, who Tom was selling cars in Terre Haute in the 60s, and he used to tell me growing up that Stram once had the Chiefs stop in Terre Haute, right by the dealership that he worked at, because at that time Indiana State was one of the first to have AstroTurf, and he wanted the Chiefs to see what it felt like. So I think they had practice there in Terre Haute on the Indiana State Sycamore AstroTurf.
Great story. And that's right. They were the first to have, I think, in college football,
really?
have turf, I believe. And that is the true thing. But Tom, I didn't mean to interrupt. Anything else from your end on that?
Oh, yeah. You talked about Roosevelt Coleman. Roosevelt Coleman still likes to get his Super Bowl trophies out and polish them up and put those on social media. I'm sure he'll be doing that in the next couple of weeks. He always has a lot of fun on Twitter if you follow him at all. Just a character, a great guy, and a Boilermaker, great too. But yeah, Nate talked about Matt Light. He should probably be in the Hall of Fame one day. I think Allstott should too. And a lot of Boilermakers have been lucky to play in this game over the years. Rod Woodson, of course, got to win one, I believe, with the Ravens on that 2000 team that was so special. And I think the no-name defense, the Miami Dolphins, Tim Foley, right, Alan?
Great player.
Safety was on that team. Of course, we all remember Bob Greasy being the offensive leader there as well. But yeah, Purdue, for a school with I guess modest football history, certainly has a lot of players that have played on the greatest stage of all for a football player, the Super Bowl. And like you said, Alan, that trend continues this year. Talking about Ricardo Allen and Markus Bailey. Markus is a great guy, and of course he's not playing, but the other roster, Bryson Hopkins, the tight end, is a Ram, but of course he's not active. But I tell you what, like I said, Purdue's had a nice little run of ball players there. Some of them very high profile guys. We talked about the quarterbacks too, and it's funny, guys. One other one more for me personally too. In St. Louis, when the Rams won that thing in the 1999 season, of course, Jeff Skanina.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite Boilermakers.
Is he still playing, Tom? I think he could be, isn't he?
He probably could be. He probably could be. I saw him in a spring practice a couple of years ago with his wife. He looked like he could walk on the field that day, man. And but Jeff Skanina was on that Super Bowl team. And special player, a guy I think a lot of times Purdue fans forget about. The 1992 Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, along with Aiden Hutchinson's dad, Chris Hutchinson, way back in the day. But he was a special guy that got himself a Super Bowl ring that day too. Yeah,
you think about this in Jeff Skanina, how many years and in the trenches, guys' shelf life is just not that long, and how long he played is unbelievable. The last comment I'll make, you think about Bob Greasy. Now, Bob is going to turn 77 this week, and that's hard to believe in its own right. But Bob, there aren't many quarterbacks. Even the great Tom Brady didn't play, I don't believe, in 3 consecutive Super Bowls. Of course, Bob did, won 2 of them back to back. And of course, also on the undefeated Dolphins team that they hoist their champagne every year. It seems that when somebody goes down late in the season, but that Bob Greasy, a huge part of that tradition. And of course, we always used to say it took the Hall of Fame level, NFL Hall of Fame level quarterbacks to get Purdue to the Rose Bowl. Drew Brees will be in the Hall of Fame before long. Bob Greasy in the Hall of Fame. An unbelievable thing. So, Nate, I'm going to ask you a car question to bring this all together, because business is always interested. What's new in the car business at Twin City Superstore? Anything exciting going on?
It's never boring, Alan. We've been blessed. Inventory seems to be pretty good right now. And so in the car business at this moment, if you have new car inventory, you have a lot to be thankful for. And so we're very thankful to have some stuff to show folks. Wrangler's very popular across the board nationally. And then we're rolling out a new Grand Cherokee L with a 3rd row. First time that they've put a 3rd row in Grand Cherokee. So we're pretty excited about that. And over the last couple of years, Alan, as you know, we've moved out to what was the old Bill Andrews Oldsmobile site. So we're out at 38 in Creasy. And the town, is growing around campus, but it's also really growing out on that 38 and Creasy Lane corridor. And so we're thankful to be here. A lot of traffic, and it's easy to find us now. So that's what we're up to.
All right, that's always good to know. So we're going to continue this. We'll come up with some good topics next month as well. Who knows what'll be happening? Maybe we'll be talking about Final Four stuff or Big Ten tournament stuff. But we appreciate I appreciate first Tom Dienhart and Nate Barrett for joining me, but we had a lot of fun with this, and you know, it can go on for hours if we keep going, but it's a lot of fun to do this. And we appreciate all of you for watching and listening on our Monday and our TwinCitiesSuperstore.com Monday Night Memories. And we'll be doing this throughout. And if you have questions or have submissions or things you want us to talk about, you know, we can research with the best of you. We act like we know everything, but we try to do our homework sometimes too. But it's a lot of fun to do, and it's a lot of fun to go down memory lane, especially after a game like yesterday where you have something that brings up all those memories. So have a great rest of your week, folks. Nate and Tom, thanks again. And we'll be back next month for our next edition of Twin Cities Superstore Monday Night Memories. And we'll look forward to that very much.